And good evening and welcome everybody to the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure Unplugged. My name is Eric Altman. To the right of me is Tom Mihawk, and we've got Jay Pachochin joining us. As always, there's nothing but internet issues and technical problems. That's why I don't do Beyond the Edge radio anymore.
I love it though. That's, when things go wrong is the best part, I mean, it's live, man. It's unplugged. Yeah. It's unhinged.
Well, it's it's something.
It's something.
Yeah. Well, we're here finally after trying to get StreamYard to work. What it did was all the Facebook pages I connected, mine, the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure, the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society, the YouTube channel, nothing worked. So I had to go on and delete everything and re-add them. So I think they're working now. But
I will double check as we're here.
I'm on a delay, but yeah.
Okay. Tom can hear us, but he's on a little bit of a delay like we kind of expected. So, but welcome to the show. We're going to have a fun time tonight. We've got standing by our first guest joining us from the Lone Star State and way down south in San Antone, Mr. Ken Gerhardt. Ken, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Glad to have you back, buddy.
Good evening, all. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
The pleasure and honor is all ours, my friend. And joining us from the state to the north, New York, the one and only squash detective, Mr. Steve Calls. Hello, Steve.
What up? What it is?
Just a bunch of guys hanging out tonight on Friday night with nothing better to do. But we're here. We're going to entertain people. Going to talk a little Bigfoot tonight. Going to have some fun. And welcome, guys. Glad you are able to join us tonight.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys, for joining. That's awesome on a Friday night.
Yeah, so we're going to spend about maybe about an hour and a half just kind of chit-chatting and, just kind of shooting the breeze, talking about all things crypto tonight, Bigfoot. Let's start off with you, Ken. You've been doing this I think is your third week now. You have a brand new class that you're teaching cryptozoology. And what is this, your third class that you've done?
Well, actually, thanks for bringing it up, Eric. Actually, it's my third session. So I've done two sessions of 20 students. So I've got about 60 students enrolled right now. And we started back the end of February. So I'm just kicking off the third one now. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, tell us about the class and what it entails and what you're offering for people that want to join in for future episodes.
Yeah, I thought about doing this, I'm sure a few years ago, someone suggested it or whatever, and I actually laid out a syllabus, and when I realized the vast amount of material it would take to teach a class, I was like, there's no way I can do this. But earlier this year, I just got a wild hair, and I thought, okay, let me give it another shot, and I condensed everything, so it's a 6-class course. The first one is like an introduction to cryptozoology, which actually is a crash course in zoology, biology, paleontology, and all the foundational stuff that you need to approach this material. Then I do a Bigfoot class second. Third is aquatic cryptids like Nessie, Champ, Ogopogo, and so forth. Fourth is winged cryptids, Thunderbirds, Mothman, Jersey Devil, so on. And then I'm about to do a kind of cryptid carnivore beast type class on the chupacabra, the beast of Gévaudan, black cat, panthers, thylacine, and all that good stuff. And then my last class, by request of my students, is going to be on basically just research and investigation techniques that we employ in terms of whether it's doing an interview or being in the field or, what types of things to do there. And I'm offering a certificate for anybody that completes the whole course. I see one of my fine students right here with us this evening, and Tom's doing an outstanding job. So, there's quizzes and stuff. They're not mandatory, but, it's been a lot of fun.
Cool. And if somebody wants to join the classes, the last couple of classes, how do they go about doing it? I know you posted some stuff on Facebook saying there was openings and whatnot.
Yeah, they could just reach out to me. It's just $20 a class. No one's obligated to do the whole course if they don't want to. If someone wants to just jump in on a Bigfoot class just for an hour and a half or whatever. So they can reach out to me here on Facebook or any social media outlet. And we'll set it up.
Awesome. And I couldn't think of a better teacher than you can. Folks that are taking the class are very fortunate to have a good teacher.
Yes.
And you're going to be doing this probably next year or in a couple of months from now.
Who knows what the future will hold, as long as there's interest. So,
Okay.
it started out strong, so I'm just kind of riding the wave right now. And as long as people are interested in it, enjoying it, I'm also thinking about kind of adding in some extra credit modules at the end, since we didn't get into like the Yeti, or if someone wants to hear more about a specific cryptid or something that's kind of off the beaten path, I figured maybe I would do some like short modules, like pre-recorded type things that people could download. So yeah, well, really no long-term plan. I'm just kind of living in the moment and seeing how it goes.
Well, that's cool. They do offer online classes. There's several websites that have like an online class that you can sign up for a specific subject. Have you considered maybe getting into that line and offering cryptid classes that way?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's just a learning process. So I'm just doing Zoom, trying to keep it simple. I do record the classes. So I've had students that have like had a schedule conflict at the last minute, or a family emergency came up, or their Wi-Fi connection dropped out, and then I can just send people the recorded link. So I am building up a kind of a library of resources in terms of that information.
Awesome. Well, I would highly recommend it. I haven't taken the class myself yet. My schedule just won't permit me to do it, but I would highly recommend everybody check out Ken's classes. Tom, I know you can speak to it. You've taken them.
Yeah, the classes are incredible. I mean, they're packed full of information. Ken does a great job presenting it and articulating it. I couldn't recommend it more highly.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. I'm going to give you some extra credit for that.
I was going to say, did you bring an apple for the teacher?
It'll be there tomorrow, overnight mail.
Just go ahead and skip that next quiz. Don't worry about it, Tom.
Teachers pet. Teachers pet.
All right, let's jump over to you, Steve. What have you been up to lately? I know you've been doing some conferences, and you still got Squatch TV going on strong, and your debunking videos that you've put out. What's new with you, my friend?
Well, first of all, I want to let you know, Eric, we're simulcasting this show.
Oh,
StreamYard allows that. So anybody that's on my network, make sure you come over to Eric's channel and subscribe to this podcast. It's going to be it's a great podcast, great time, great bunch of people. So I wanted to put that out there. And yeah, the show schedule is set for this year, starting. I want to say towards the end of June. I got the Rochester Parafest, and then we got Hocking Hills in Logan, Ohio, coming up in August, and then of course the great Pennsylvania Bigfoot camping adventure coming up in September, and then Whitehall in late September. And I believe I have another one coming in October, but that one's still in the works. That's going to be a more of a jumble of paranormal and cryptid and stuff like that. And I have a book coming out at the end of the month, the Psychology of Bigfoot. So that's coming out on May 31st. So
that's your third book, right?
Fourth
book. I'm behind in the times.
Yeah. Yep. And that's coming out. So, and we're kind of changing things on Friday nights with Squatch DTV a little bit. We're doing the news, but there isn't just enough credible news out there to do a show each week on the Bigfoot topic. So we're going to probably do a Bigfoot news like once a month, and we'll add other shows in on Friday nights. We're going to try something new tonight. And of course we have our usual Sunday night show where we usually take a researcher or somebody and we interview them for the course of the.
Very cool. And you mentioned the Hocking Hills event. Ken, I know you're going to be in Hocking Hills this year. Is that correct?
No, not actually. I was there last year.
You were there last year. That's right.
Yeah, and I tag teamed with my doppelganger Lyle. I told B, the organizers, I was like, okay, get Lyle in here next year, and it was an incredible event.
Yeah.
Very well organized, packed. Everyone was so cool and gracious, and it was just a total blast. I loved it.
Awesome. Yeah, I did the inaugural event. Tom and I went, and I spoke at the first event, and it was just amazing. I was so impressed with the turnout and the organization that B Mills does, and her volunteers, and it was a great first event. And I'm glad you guys were involved in the second and upcoming third event. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you have like 40,000 people over the course of 2 days trample through the streets, it's just unreal. It's just, you're there and it's go all day, and at the end of the night you're like,
yeah, it was very fast paced for us too.
Oh, yeah.
The first event, there was just so many people, and then we got rain and storms moved through, and just people just kept coming despite the weather. But it was a good time and a good turnout. So I'm glad to see you guys were both involved with that event, and I think it's just I think it's going to grow and it's going to become bigger and bigger every year. So hats off to B Mills and all the people out there at Hocking Hills for putting on a great event. Jay, we've got to get you out there, my friend. We've got to bring you over from Wisconsin to Ohio for the Hocking Hills event.
You know I don't leave Wisconsin except for Pennsylvania every once in a while.
I know.
No, I know. I got to get out there. I see so many people going to these events and everything, and I'm like, I feel like I'm living under a rock over here or under a piece of cheese.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
For sure.
definitely got to get out there for sure.
Well, before we move on, there's a whole bunch of folks in the chat room that have said hello, and it would be rude of me not to say hello back. So we'll say hello to Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. Say hello to Jimmy Trick, who joined the chat tonight.
E22, Jimmy.
We'll say hello to
Charlie
Mick. Mick has joined us, and
Hey,
he
Mick.
just got the notification about it. We'll also say hello to Virginia, who joined us. Sharon joined us. Who else has joined us? A lot of people saying hello tonight. Jen said hello. She said Hocking Hills is going to need another a block or two. You're absolutely right, Jen. It's getting bigger and bigger every year, and pretty soon they're going to probably rival the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant with the size of the event. So thanks to everybody who's joined us in the chat room, who are watching us on several of the different platforms throughout Facebook. We're glad you joined us. Speaking of events, might as well get this over with so we can talk a little Bigfoot. The Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure is about less than 4 months away. We're just under 4 months.
It's coming.
September 6th and 7th of 2024 in Farmington, Pennsylvania at the beautiful Benner's Meadow Run Campgrounds. I had a meeting with them this week, had some great news. They have torn down the dog park, which was taking up most of the field.
We were all wondering about where we're,
Yeah, I was a little nervous, but
Yeah.
They tore it down and they
Good.
moved it, and
They scooped it up.
yep, they scooped the poop, so to speak.
They scooped the poop and moved it.
And,
well, there goes this year's scat samples.
I know.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, I'll come back canine. Dog man. But they got the open field. We got the green light for that. We are moving forward, still selling tickets. We've got about 120 tickets to go before the online sales are sold out. So we're moving along, progressing. And we've got 4 of the participants with us tonight. Tom is one of the co-organizers, so he won't be speaking, but he'll be doing volunteering. Jay is one of the organizers of the event, and he's also one of the guest speakers. This is your 4th event coming up.
Yeah.
Steve, this is your 4th event coming up.
Yep.
And Ken, this is your 2nd event coming up. And
yeah.
we're glad to have you guys back again. A great lineup of speakers, workshop presenters, special guests. We've got Sasquatch Karaoke this year, which is pretty cool. If you like to sing and croon like a Sasquatch, now's your chance. You can join us at the event.
I already put my request in.
I'm sure you did. We've got a couple of Bigfoot movies that Jay's going to be showing, Finding Jay and Finding Jay Part 2. We're going to be doing night hikes again like we did last time. We have over 50 vendors, 5 food trucks. We've kind of expanded on that. We have a variety of different foods and stuff. And you're going to be in the Chestnut Ridge in one of Pennsylvania's Bigfoot hotspots.
Oh, yeah.
So a big event going to be happening this fall, early fall, and we invite you to get your tickets, pabigfootcampingadventure.com. I'll put a link to that up here on the page here a little bit later in the show, but a lot of great stuff coming up at the event. And these guys you see in the show tonight will be just a part of the event. We've got a lot of other great speakers coming and special guests coming as well. Ronnie LeBlanc from the TV show Expedition Bigfoot will be joining us. We've got two of those crazy mountain men guys, the mountain monster guys from the Ames team. We've got Jeff and Willie going to be back again with us, and a great lineup of speakers. We've got Stan Gordon, Ron Murphy. We've got, let's see who else, Dave Spinks, Kenny Biddle, Rick Fisher, Brian Parsons, Jay Pachochin. Am I missing anybody, Jay?
Steve Coles.
Steve Coles, yeah. Well, Steve is here.
I know.
He's one of the speakers, so he's front and present. And Ken, are you going to be speaking this year, or are you just going to kind of be hanging out?
I want to hear him speak. I want to hear your class.
Sounds like
all
the dream
wrapped
team
up.
that listed names. I am reminded of one historic moment that happened at my one Pennsylvania camping adventure. I was staying, Eric put me and Dr. Meldrum and I guess Dave Spinks and Dave Weatherly up in one cabin. And we had to go at one point, Eric, do you remember? He's like, I got to go check on the mountain monsters guys, the Ames team, so see how they're doing. So we all jumped in your car and we're riding over there, and you got out and ran up to them. They're all true to character, sitting on their porch, like drinking moonshine, just like they're back in the hills of West Virginia, just, yucking it up. And Jeff Meldrum was sitting next to me. I said, Jeff, have you ever met the mountain monster guys? And he was like, well, no, I haven't. I said, well, come on, man. We got out of the car, took him up on the deck, and it was just like two worlds colliding, like, but they got along great. And Jeff was like, wow, those are really nice guys. I said, yeah, they're pretty cool, they're a lot of fun. So anyways, that was kind of a fun.
That is cool.
But yeah, I'm always happy to talk. If you guys, you already have a stellar lineup, so.
Well, we'd love to have you speak. If you have a presentation ready, we'll throw you in there.
I've seen it up in Michigan. It's good. Unless you've updated it, it's still good. I loved it. Very informative.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just did an interview with Cliff and Bobo on Bigfoot and Beyond, and Cliff had mentioned that was one of his high points of the camping adventure was we had you guys set up in the back, big canopy tent. We had Jeff, yourself, we had Cliff, and the guys from the Ames team. And Cliff was like, he didn't know what to expect. he never met them before, but he fell in love with them like everybody does. They're just such salt of the earth people, down to earth, and so much fun. And he was expecting something different, and just hit it off with those guys. Now everybody's real good friends with the Ames team, those crazy guys from West Virginia.
They're good guys.
Yeah, for sure. So
yeah, they're fun. Although it's funny. I don't know if you guys encountered this, but I think I was at an event in Tennessee a year or two ago, and of course they have a line of people, 400 people constantly in line to meet them, and me and Ron Moorhead are over here trying to get the scraps as they kind of fall off the line. But some of their fans were coming over and saying, you really need to follow these guys in terms of their research techniques. The Ames guys, they've got it going on. I said, oh yeah? And he's like, yeah, well, one time they caught a Bigfoot. They caught it in a trap. And I was like, well, what happened to it? And he's like, well, such and such tripped on the lever, and then the thing
got away.
No, I don't know. I guess you could question some of those research techniques. I don't know.
It's the same goal.
It's fun.
Come on. Techniques.
Come on, it's fun.
It is. And yeah, those guys are.
And it's never like they claimed it anything else.
Yeah, those guys are a hoot. At my 2017, was it 2017, Jay, or 2019? I can't remember which, but Walter Schrum was playing his Bigfoot song, and the Mountain Monster guys came over and joined us, and they were singing and dancing with us underneath the canopy tent.
Yeah, that was the second one, 2017. That's actually kind of in our little opening with the Unplugged.
Yeah, and none of us can sing, and none of us can dance. But
no, but that, I think that's what honestly was cool about that, was that it was like the brotherhood came together. No matter how silly it was or whatever we were doing, we kind of came together. And I'll always remember that moment, that it's like, hey, you know what? This is what we're down here for. We're down here to not only learn, hike, but, to connect. And definitely that's what I've loved about it. That's right, Steve. That's where I met you,
Yeah.
2016. You know, and just meeting everyone. Oh, Jimmy, think we're all drunk. Well, it's possible.
Yeah, that
Well,
moonshine.
Yeah, that moonshine was going around, but definitely it was cool. And Eric, you even got into it. You were a little hesitant because Walter was calling you out. Come on, Eric. And you're like, oh, and then you did.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, you're right. I was a little nervous about singing and dancing because I can't sing and I can't dance. I got two left feet. So I went up and joined you guys, and a few bars into the song, we were all doing the showgirls leg kicks and
And
I
don't know how that started. I think we just started. We were all putting our arms around ourselves, and all of a sudden the legs started going up. So hey.
Yeah, we have fun, and that's the most important thing. No drama, no stress, nothing.
Right.
It's all fun with a whole lot of good people. So, folks, if you want to come out and join us, the banners scrolling at the bottom of the screen there. Get your tickets. Come out and meet Ken. Hell of a nice guy. He'll teach you so much. Meet Steve. Hell of a great guy. My brother, I've known for almost 25 years now, Steve?
Yeah, it's going. Yep, about 25 years now.
Come out and meet Jay, a hell of a great guy, and so much fun to hang around with. And come meet this clown next to me over here. This is my protege, my Padawan, if you will, Tom Mihawk. And Tom goes out in the woods with me, and we do a lot of hiking and hunting. And God, I can't tell you how many hours we spent in the forest together.
Countless.
Yeah. So come out, meet these guys, have a good time, meet the other guys that I mentioned that are going to be there speaking. And we got Dave Wickham and Brian Bowden doing the workshops. It's going to be a blast. So come out, join us, have a lot of fun. And
Taters is awesome.
Yeah, Taters is a really good guy, and he's going to be there teaching people how to scientifically measure and make moldings, casts of footprint tracks that are found. So he has a nice little workshop class for that if you want to learn how to make casts.
Yeah, but in between all that, if people get hungry, what do?
5 food trucks, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what we should do
is
we should do, and maybe I'll do it. We'll do a food review of the 5 food trucks over the course of the event. Do a Bigfoot conference.
Yeah, we're going to have a barbecue rib steak truck, a submarine or hoagie truck, a hot dog truck that has oh my gosh, so many different varieties of hot dogs that you never thought were possible. A waffle truck that has different variety of waffles, like barbecue chicken, buffalo chicken on waffles. A fried food, deep fried food truck, and also going to be like a tent that's going to sell sweets as far as like candies and chocolates and baked goods. There's going to be so much food there. I think we're all going to put on about 20 pounds that weekend. So plan on it.
All right.
That's where I'll be volunteering.
We'll walk it off on the Chestnut Ridge.
That's right.
But one thing I do want to do, Eric, is at some point, I think we should all get together, get a good bottle of hooch, pour a shot, put it up in the air, and toast Dave Drag.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah, I was planning on doing something in his honor. For those who didn't get a chance to meet Dave, Dave was a very key player in organizing and promoting and helping put on the camping adventure. He was one of the organizers, a dear friend, and we miss him terribly. And unfortunately, Dave passed away in 2020. And so this upcoming event, we'll be doing it in his honor and without Dave, unfortunately, but he'll be there in spirit. And we'll definitely have to raise a glass to Dave at the event this year, and to Cindy as well. Cindy as well.
I don't go back as far as you guys do with Papa Bear there, because I met him in 2016, just like I met you guys, and then he has some relatives up here in Illinois. So when he would come up, we would go out, for lunch or dinner after work. But the one thing about Dave that I'll always remember that is I would do a podcast that we get on so many different podcasts, it doesn't matter. He would always tune in, and as soon as it was over, he would always call and discuss, what a good job I did, and when you meant this, what did you mean by that? But he always showed that interest just from being that far away. Just a great man. I'll always remember that too.
You know, and Dave's help with my Bigfoot cold case when I did the Jan Clement, who was really Jan Clement. Dave, the one who led me to a witness who knew about Clement's Point and kind of got me to the right area to find the actual property. And so it was just his input to that was just so important. And in fact, I think Dave at one point was ready to get a shovel and go up to the area where, you know, supposedly the Bigfoot was buried.
Yeah. Why not? Start digging it up, even though it's not our property.
Dave was a tremendous sketch artist. And I'll never, the most quantifiable case I remember him talking about was the one that had kind of like the cleft lip. And, you know, here he is a few years later realizing that this woman is describing the same one he had sketched a few years earlier. And, you know, as an investigator, I'm looking for investigative links, not necessarily scientific links. And as an investigator, I'm like, wow, that was really, you know, a tremendous connection there.
Absolutely. He was one of a kind. And I had the privilege and honor of working with him very closely on countless cases. He was a member of the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society. We spoke on the phone at least weekly. He was just like a father figure to me, and I miss him dearly. His contributions to the field and to our friendship won't certainly be forgotten. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was like he was like the glue that just pulled everybody together. He just had that about him, you know. At least that's from my perspective of meeting him in 2016. Not like you guys, you know, more in depth, but that's just what I felt. It felt like he just brought everything together, and he was really good on the entertainment ways. You know, when he would do his setup and everything in the pavilion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, both he and Cindy are greatly missed, and we'll definitely have to raise a glass to them at the event.
Absolutely. Good call, Steve.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to talk a little bit about Bigfoot and the state of where we're at right now, because things are pretty much what they've been the last 25, 30, 40 years. There really hasn't been much of a progression as far as discovery. I know there have been tracks discovered and cast, some pretty good dermal ridges on the tracks. DNA, we haven't really moved much further forward with DNA. And the sighting reports still come in, and they're coming in at greater quantities from all over the country. You hear about sightings happening frequently, much more so than back when the 5 of us were, you know, just getting into this. What are your thoughts on the state we're in right now with the Bigfoot community or the Bigfoot phenomenon itself? Ken, we'll start off with you.
Well, you kind of nailed it. I mean, we haven't, you know, frustratingly, we haven't had a lot of landmark evidence come in, you know, in recent decades. It's been kind of more of the same. I will say one thing that's discouraging is that the quality of eyewitness accounts, and I'm not talking about the eyewitnesses that we, you know, here as investigators personally interview, but I'm talking about, you know, the popularity of these, you know, kind of Bigfoot story shows, and we all know the names of them, but basically people call in, but it's like, you know, it's anonymous, it's non-traceable, it's secondhand, and you know, they're just stories, and they're often very entertaining and sensational. But, you know, back in the day, you know, going back to like the, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s, maybe there were people that would maybe, you know, contact law enforcement or, you know, get in the newspapers. They'd put their names out there and own it. And it seemed to be a lot more credibility in terms of someone that was willing to risk their reputation, you know, their family and stuff to go, you know, document or, you know, file a report with you know, law enforcement, put their name in the paper, maybe be on the media. And then you actually had someone standing behind a story, as opposed to these days, the accounts are just kind of getting like, you know, and I'm sure how you guys get frustrated by this too. And I often have people that come up to me and it's like, yeah, this guy that worked with my uncle's friend, he saw a big one. It's like, okay, so we're already like 4 or 5 people removed away from the actual person that had this experience. So the eyewitness accounts are important, I think, in terms of the body of evidence if we put them all together. But obviously, we're still looking for the gold star of evidence. The standard is going to be either DNA or remains, or and I guess the next best thing is the physical trace evidence, which we still keep getting good footprints and some intriguing hair samples and scats and things like that kind of make it, so it's frustrating at times, but I think that we're still kind of on the right track. And I think by and large the Bigfoot community, and I've had the honor to travel all over North America and meet Bigfoot researchers from you guys' neck of the woods over to the Pacific Northwest and different places. And I think by and large, the Bigfoot community is a lot of very bright, dedicated people that work together, share information, and try to, there are some bad apples that are kind of mixed in there that are more about the drama and stuff. But I guess I'm, an eternal optimist, because I just see like all the bright minds and the people that are really working hard towards trying to find answers. And I think that's what keeps me going.
And it's good that we have you still in the field doing what you're doing, because you're one of the positive influences and the positive voices out there, putting out the good information and doing the research and doing what needs to be done and sharing that publicly. So I think you've become like one of the elder statesmen in the field, so to speak. And I tip my hat to you, because, without guys like you and Steve and Jay, just to name a few, doing what we're doing, this field would be in total utter chaos. There would be so much garbage out there and no one to shine the light on the important scientific information.
The mantle's been passed down. What are we, like maybe the 3rd generation of Bigfoot researchers? I see young guys coming up. A lot of the greats and the pioneers are being forgotten. If you ask a room full of, at a typical Bigfoot conference these days, if you ask everyone who Renee DeHinden is, and nobody knows who you're talking about or whatever. So it's kind of sad, because we're talking about guys that spent 40 to 60 years doing the research. One last thing I forgot to add, and I think people like Steve have been an integral part in pushing back against a lot of the alleged photographic evidence, because we're all kind of bombarded these days with images of, what do you think of this? And, that and that. It's just, I don't know. I've been frustrated in recent years. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say, but I'm just it's hard for me to get behind and advocate any photographic evidence these days, because if it looks great, then your first thought is, well, it's got to be AI or Photoshop or something. And if it doesn't look great, then it's the same old thing, which is just like a shadowy piece of fur sticking out behind a tree, or a shadow in the bush that you just can't really form any kind of conclusion.
I was going to just chime in with exactly what you're saying, though. Usually what I like to do is just educate people if they're showing any type of interest, is to get out and discover for yourself. Find your own truth when you're out there, because the pictures don't do anything justice. I get it. No matter what. And even Steve, me sending you a video clip that we caught in April is a lot different from being out there. Right. And to be able to discover it. Of course, we don't want to believe our own lies. When ghost investigators go out, look at a haunted house, they hear something immediately. It's a ghost. It's all already piped into our brains of what we're doing. Same thing with going out in the woods. Every crack you hear out there in an uncontrolled environment is not said Bigfoot. However, there are things that I can't even explain. And again, like I said, sending something to Steve and bouncing off Eric. Ken, I've sent you a few things to where they're just unexplainable. So that it's basically what I'm doing when I'm looking at the whole field, and I'm glad they're doing what everybody's doing, right? You were just saying, you got to tip your hats to all that. I'm searching for my own truth. I kind of tune everything out as, I don't want to say white noise, because it makes me sound like I don't listen. But the thing is, if there's any type of that bantering where somebody sends me a picture and said, what do you think? Just like you were saying, my answer always is, it could be, because you don't know. I have no idea. I wasn't out there. But at the same time, when I'm looking at it, get out there and discover that for yourself, because there's something bigger. And I didn't mean a pun by anything bigger. This is up here in Wisconsin, to where when I first started doing this, I was, in my opinion, chasing a flesh and blood ape that we haven't caught up with yet. And over these past 11 years, short 11 years, but being out there, there is something much more to it. And again, it's what I'm accepting as the truth. So I guess what I was saying, Ken, to just kind of pigtail off yours, is that we don't know what all these pictures are, no matter, even if we're all close friends here. And Eric, like you said, you sent it to Cliff and Dr. Jeff. They really don't know, and they're just going to give you kind of a percentage. They're not really studying it as close. Steve, just like the print I casted with me and my oldest daughter, you were only able to see it on video. You weren't able to hold it and look at it. So
Right.
Again, basically it's like getting our interpretation of what's out there and what it is. It's like I feel like I'm just in this closed box in Wisconsin that's just finding my truth, not my delusions of grandeur, mind you, because I still got to put on that little skeptical hat while you're out there. Not everything's a Bigfoot, but then when it comes down to it, is what is a Bigfoot? And actually that's what we're all trying to prove. But again, just get out there, discover for yourself if you have that interest, if you can. If not, listen to these great people here, because I trust each one of them. I really do. So that's my 2 cents onto yours, Ken.
Well, Steve, I know you've become, you are the Squatch detective, and you've become kind of known for seeking out or exposing the hoaxers. And there's been a lot of that lately. The last couple of years, there's been a lot of garbage videos put out there, pictures, claims, you name it. And you've seemed to pretty much expose those who were hoaxing. What's your thoughts on where we are with the field right now, and where things stand based on what you've experienced?
Well, it's kind of funny you say that, Eric, is that, I've always said that, yeah, people know me for exposing hoaxes. And the only reason why I'm known for exposing hoaxes is because I'm investigating claims. They could be real. Some of them could be real. And you come across the diamond in the rough. I've done that a few times over the years. So exposing hoaxes is not really in of itself. That's not what I do. What I do is I do Bigfoot research, and I investigate sightings. And it's not that I'm going after hoaxes. They just turn out to be hoaxes. A lot of times, sometimes I'll flag them because this is so obvious. We need to take a look at this. I've always said that you need a story behind any, type of piece of evidence. There's way too many times. And this is part of the problem with the community of itself. Why haven't we advanced in the last 40 years? And I think I have when you ask that question, it kind of rung a bell in my head. We get a new piece of technology and we think that's going to be it. That's going to solve the problem. And we throw that out there and we do nothing to advance that. Right. We got thermal imaging. Now thermal imaging is available everywhere, where, hey, 10, 12 years ago, it was pretty expensive technology. Right. And everybody thinks that's going to solve the mystery, but it's not. It's not giving any clear definition to what we're looking at. It's a tool. So I always wonder, and I'm developing things, and I've been a developer for many, many years of different things, just waiting for the right time, for the right technology mixture. And that's the important word, is mixture, because you want to prove this. It's not just going to take a FLIR by itself. It's not going to take a drone with a FLIR by itself. It's not going to take a trail cam by itself or an audio recorder. It's going to take a combination of those technologies. And when you have those targeted on one being, one unsub, that's when it's going to make a difference. Right? And at the same time, well, people say about DNA too. Well, here's the thing, the big argument with DNA is, well, if you get DNA of something, it doesn't really prove it's a Bigfoot. It just proves it's, unknown DNA. It may be primate, whatever. Well, now we've brought our DNA technologies and genome mapping so far forward that if we do get a Bigfoot, DNA that believed to be Bigfoot, if it is a Bigfoot, we'll pretty clearly know what type of creature this is when they map it. But the other thing is you cannot deny that when you combine technologies showing this DNA sample being taken, and my method is very invasive, it's non-evasive, I should say, that I think that it will prove it. Now, again, we're a few years off of developing the total package here on how this is going to work out. But yes, I do debunk a lot of stuff, but I'm also a very serious researcher on how trying to bring this mystery to at least gather the evidence to give the science to figure out what it is.
Yeah. And again, you were talking about technology, and actually, I'm actually going the opposite way, because, and I guess what I mean by that is I'm trying to carry less technology on me after speaking to like the Native American, the Ho Chunk elders and Potawatomi. Been talking a little bit different way of trying to find my truth. And again, that's the crazy part of it, because a lot of people are like, well, what are you trying to prove out there? And I really think when it comes to it, it's like, well, I guess I'm trying to prove it for me, because it doesn't matter what I would capture, like you were saying, thermal or body cam or whatever. It's just an image. You weren't there, and half the people will believe it, half the people won't. Then you're going to have the AI, whatever. It's like being out there. It's like that I think that's my connection of what I've been, how my researching has been going, has been more trying to be more nature minded. Some people say, hey, go out there naked, not literally naked without technology, but I'm like, but if something happens, how do I prove it to who? And it's, I think when it comes down to it, it's proving it for me. But like you were just saying, Steve, about the technology out there, it's like how long have people been trying trail cams with no success? I mean, even with the thermal, a lot of them, unless they're the high powered ones that cost $20,000 or more, it's really hard to exactly figure out what those are. But again, I give the kudos to like you guys, like you were saying, Steve, the investigator part of you, the detective part of you, which helps me.
I have a big belief in the FLIR technology. Don't get me wrong, because you look at if you actually therm a Sasquatch, you can tell by the coloration because it's not wearing clothing. Hey, this is a solid, but you're not going to convince science for that, and that's and because not because I don't believe it. Like I can look at one and go, wow, that was really a great capture. And as investigators, we should be passing the good stuff around to each other, saying, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this. Doesn't prove it, but now how can we further it? How can we advance it further? Right? Because you take any type of FLIR image, whether it be up, down, sideways or not, even if you're 10 feet from it, science is not going to believe it.
Right.
Well, I want to, before we get to Mick's question, and he does ask a pretty good question here for all of us. I'll get to you in a second. Just Mick, just hang tight. Tom is relatively new to the cryptid field, and he's been going on about 3 years now.
Yeah, about.
And I want your take as a new person coming into the field, what you think about the state of where we're at, and what you think, in your opinion, is going to have to happen to move us forward and advance where we stand right now.
Well, like you said, I'm relatively new, so I don't have the years of experience in this part of it that you guys do. It's kind of a mixed answer for me. I agree with Steve and what you guys are saying. I think somewhere down the line, I think there's going to be a combination of technology that's going to help, whether it be DNA or better thermal or whatever it is. I think there's possibly technology on its way that might lead us closer to the answer. But kind of tagging along what Jay said, I kind of really think deep down that, no matter how, it's going to be a personal experience, no matter how good the technology gets. If the technology gets better tenfold, then you're just going to have scientists or people out there saying, well, it's that much easier to fake it. It's AI, it's, whatever. But, you and I have had some pretty unexplainable experiences, and there's no substitution for those, and you can't prove them. They're just stories when you tell somebody. But to actually be there and see eye shine 9.5 feet high and know that there's no animal in Pennsylvania that can match that description, or to find the casts or the tracks that we came across recently. I mean, I think ultimately it's always going to be a personal experience field, because no matter how good technology gets, you're always going to have people say that the technology's so good he just faked it.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that, in what I would like to see, that I think would help advance the field, is for some of these shows to go away. To be honest with you, not the documentaries, not like the stuff Ken has done or that you've been on, or or Stan or Jay or Steve, but some of these shows that we know are quote unquote reality, but there's a script somewhere in the mix. And I think those shows have done some good in bringing the subject more open and more out to the public. But at the same time, just like we talked about Salt Fork State Park when we went to the conference last week, you get a show that mentions this area or that area, then all of a sudden an area that was active for a long time is now overrun with the weekend warrior, and now that area is just shot.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get any more activity, and if you do, you can't trust it.
I
think it's kind of a catch-22, but I think ultimately what it's going to come down to, the personal experience.
You know what? And Tom, I wanted
that's just this rookie's take.
Put your headphones back in.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say
sorry.
That's all right. I was like, Tom, no. The thing is, I believe that as well with reality TV shows or TV shows in general. I mean, come on, it's on TV, it's advertising. I'm not saying any of it can't be real or is. I know they hype it up to that. There's one thing I would love to talk to Ronnie about, though, in Expedition Bigfoot, was that shadow cast. Steve, do you see that on okay, it was season 2, but there is this.
I'm sorry to say, season 1 kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah,
because when a show makes the claims, they're deep into the woods, and it turns out they're at a ranch.
Right. Well, I
just can't. I can't go on with it.
Right. And honestly, I watched Finding Bigfoot pretty much just for the town hall meetings, because I loved hearing other people's encounters.
Well, and plus we're in the town halls, Jay. So
yeah.
Well, the other thing too is
that's right. Yeah.
Like I when I've seen their solo expeditions and stuff like that, and usually it's Cliff and the cameraman or whoever and the cameraman, and they were legit. I mean, when they did those, but I know from helping scout a couple of locations for Finding Bigfoot that the major issue was time constraints, and the director is going, okay, come on, we got to go, and they want to do more, but they can't.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, but again, they're out there though, regardless. I mean, it's like other people that we don't mention. I shouldn't say it like that, but there are certain researchers that can claim to show you a Sasquatch. But what I'm saying is that regardless, when people are out, things can happen. Tom, you were just saying when you hit that area and it gets oversaturated, it all depends on how tenacious you are to being out there, because guess what? That hype will fiddle away. The encounters, the activity will still be out there.
Well, years ago, I always used to say this, is that you come across You interview your witness, you think it's legitimate, you go out to the area, you talk to them again, you're like, hey, they really did see something. We're forgetting as researchers and as investigators. I mean, first and foremost, we need to be investigators, not step away from that researcher thing. We're not researching anything, we're investigating. We have to, what's the first thing you do when you go to an area that there's evidence on? It's a crime scene. It is a crime scene. You need to treat it like that. You need to treat it secretly. You need to work on it. So a lot of the areas and the stuff for me did not come out until years after I was already working those areas. So it's really important you get a sighting, I dissuade witnesses from running out to the media, because the next thing you know, people will be out there with stompers and hooting and hollering and, God forbid, with guns trying to take one down.
See, it's funny you even say that, because people would say, if I've ever captured hardcore evidence, could I release that? People know where, where I hike. I don't even, it's where I hike. And the last thing I want to do is exactly what you said, draw all that attention to whether people believe it or not. That's the last thing I want.
Yep. All right, let's answer a mixed question. Aside from official recognition of Sasquatch as a species, why does anyone give a damn whether the serious researchers have a PhD or are somehow otherwise credentialed? I think that's a fair question, but just my opinion, I think the people who have PhDs bring more credibility to the subject than someone like me or Jay, because the public views the PhDs as a scientific mind, even though we use or implore the scientific method to the best of our ability. We're not certified in that particular field. We don't have an education in that field. Even though I have a college education and a bachelor's degree, I'm not an anthropologist or a primatologist or a zoologist. So just in my opinion, I think the general public cares about whether or not people have a PhD more than people in the community do.
Yeah, but you have to be careful about the PhD's confirmation bias. I'll give you a great example. My Monster Quest, we had an anthropologist, Dr. Philip Stevens from University of Buffalo, came on the Monster Quest show to say, I do not believe that there is no evidence. This is what he said, quote, there is no evidence that supports that North America could support a large primate. He actually said this. And when you think about it, we're all large primates. So what he said was completely false. And then they had another ecologist from, and I forget his, Kurt Koga from New York State NCON comes up and says, well, if these things were real, people would be seeing them. You see, right? Right. So you see that there is, Nick has a good point here, is that aside from anthropology, I'm sure Dr. Meldrum has some real world experiences about crime scenes, about how to take care of a scene. But a person like me who's worked 30 years in securing evidence and securing areas that are crime scenes, where does that sit? Everybody has their speciality. I think Dr. Darby Orcutt kind of proved that, because his science is organizing science, that when you have a problem, there are different specialists for different areas. Like I wouldn't know, there's a bone. I couldn't tell you what it is, but as the forensic, collector of that, I can tell you it was collected in a safe manner. It was stored in a safe manner, and the chain of custody is here. So it's going to take, like I said about the technologies, I think it's going to take disciplines of science together to work to make one expert opinion.
Ken, let me hear your thoughts.
Oh gosh. Well, I don't want to stir the pot, but I guess I have a little bit of a bias because I've been working with the San Antonio Zoo for the past 8 years, and I've gotten to work with conservation scientists, PhDs, and zoologists.
Stir the pot. Stir the pot.
Well, hopefully this doesn't go in a political direction for your listeners, because I want to be respectful of everyone's views out there. But there's absolutely an anti-science movement that's been going on in the country since COVID, and maybe even before with some of the climate stuff. And I agree, granted, science is not foolproof. I'm not here to say that it's 100% all the time, and that someone's just because a PhD have an answer. But good scientists, and there's a ton of them, trust me, they're well-trained good scientists. I've met many of them. They go by the evidence and the data, and that's what good science is. If you have an overwhelming amount of data that says A, then you can't just say, well, I think B because I believe that. That's definitely not science. So good Bigfoot research should be absolutely evidence and data based. And so, for example, a presentation that I do frequently at Bigfoot conferences has to do with, it's basically Bigfoot analytics. And these are based on studies that were done by guys like John Green, Henner Fehrenbach, and others, where they actually took hundreds of Bigfoot sightings and put them in the computers and looked at, okay, oh, wow, we have a bell curve here. So that means that if someone were making up stories, you'd have things all over the map, but it's kind of coming together here a little bit. So you actually have data in terms of, how tall do we really think they are? How long are their footprints? How much could they weigh? And it's all based on science. And without that, I mean, you're going to have Bigfoots that are 20 feet tall running around out there. You're going to have, Bigfoots using kind of the supernatural powers and things that, and I'm not saying it's totally impossible, but it's just the data, the evidence of 40, 60 years of Bigfoot research does not yet indicate, that these are, forest people from another dimension. That's not, if you look at all the data that's been collected by everybody involved. So, I respect my buddy Jay, and I understand that what he was saying earlier about, he wants to prove things to himself, and there's kind of a noble, profound purpose in that, and I respect that. But I feel like I'd like to see Bigfoot proved to the world, and in order for that to happen, it would have to go through the scientific establishment to some extent, because, most people, I guess the majority of people, and keep in mind, guys, that only 18 to 22% of the general population thinks Bigfoot could possibly exist. So it's only like 1 in 5 people. We're kind of the oddballs here, right? The vast majority of people out there know very little about Bigfoot, think it's a legend, whatever. In order for us to convince them, and what is the actual noble purpose behind that? It goes back to conservation and protection, because if these things exist, we have to put laws in place and things to protect them, I think, because they're probably very endangered. But, we have to use the mechanism of the scientific establishment to some extent is going to have to vet and approve whatever evidence that we give them that, that might potentially sway them, and I think only then would the general public probably accept, okay, well, if all these scientists are all in agreement that there is something here to this, then, maybe it's not a joke. Maybe there is something here. So
I guess that's where I always fall into is when, if you're seeing it not firsthand, either encountering or having those accounts, is okay. Remember in 2007, was it Rick Dyer who was showing the Bigfoot that they had in his little ice cage, and it was all over the news, and
that was in 2012. That was actually his second attempt when he had it in the travel lodge.
Yeah, Hank was 2012. There it is. Steve DeBuck,
okay,
2009, I think, was the free.
And I guess
2008. Oh God,
2008. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what it is for me on a personal level, because if I can't see it, I'm gonna say smell it, feel it, that it's there, I don't know. And again, this goes on a deeper thing, and you were talking about science, and all of a sudden I'm thinking of, well, you were saying about believe or faith, and I'm not using faith with a religion or God or anything like that, but it's kind of how far would it have to go for me to say yes, 100%? Like you were saying, Steve, if you really narrow something down where you're like, no, that's real. But again, what is it? And then Ken, you were saying that definitely with the science community, but then again, I would have a hard time with that as well. I know I'm kind of
you're the odd man out.
yeah. I honestly, I do. I feel I'm the odd man out when it comes to the research or investigation, and it's not like I'm out there playing a wooden flute, although that's a good idea. But I'm not playing a wooden flute and doing that out there. I think I've just evolved into a different state to where, this was going to be where I could see it. I had this sight. I'm just saying I had the sighting last March, it was after 3 p.m., perfect sunny day with snow in the background. And I know in my heart of hearts what I saw. And I always think of what Brian Parsons said way back when he's just like, well, the first thing that you tell yourself is you're replaying it and it's already a lie to you. Right. And Steve, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Steve. You were about to say something, but I just I definitely would love to prove that to me first. And secondly, some information for my wife so she can stop rolling her eyes every time I get back, even though she's supportive. But then, like you said, it's like, what's that next step that they're there, and where do we move on from here? Because we don't know what they are. At least that's what I'm going to say. I don't know what a Bigfoot is. I don't know. When people talk about interdimensionals and portals and that, I'm like, I've never seen a portal except on Stargate on TV. I've never seen that, so I really can't offer that. All I know is being out there as much as I have, I can't explain some of the things. And I think that's where I kind of get wrapped up in what my main objective is.
I may have an answer to that.
Yes.
Before you answer,
yeah.
Steve, let me throw this to Tom real quick and get his opinion on the question. What do you think about PhDs?
I think it's really important to have people like Dr. Meldrum, an anthropologist, somebody with a very specific scientific amount of training. But I mean, as far as the average researcher or the average person out in the woods, there's really no, like I'm going through Ken's course and it's awesome. But if I talk about that to the average person, doesn't make a difference to them. So there's really, it's not like you can go to Penn State University and get a degree in cryptozoology. So while we definitely need scientific minds and scientists like Dr. Meldrum and others, I think ultimately it's going to be the average Joe. It's going to be one of us or somebody like us that may find that sample, the hair sample, the print, whatever it is. It's going to be somebody like us that brings it to Dr. Meldrum. And I think, I don't see any way that, a PhD is going to play a huge factor into it.
All right. Thanks. Steve, go ahead with your answer. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to get Tom's take on it.
So there, Ken brought up the point that like 20% of people believe, Bigfoot is real. So we're kind of like 1 in 5. And there's this paradigm shift we've seen to paranormalism in the Bigfoot world. And I have a feeling I know why now. Because 45%, almost half of Americans believe in ghosts, believe in the supernatural. So it's very easy for somebody to say, well, we can't get the evidence on this, and not realizing that, it took me, I still do not have a trail cam picture of a coyote. I've gotten almost every other animal, but I wanted my coyote. We can't get one. I've been looking for almost 2 years now.
Come up to Wisconsin.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Come up to New York. We have plenty of them too. In fact, I found one dead in the road about 6 miles away. Can't get one to come in front of my trail camera. So that should, and the coyote population is very high in New York. But what I'm saying is that when people have trouble believing, why can't we figure this out? Why can't we get the definitive evidence? Understanding that Bigfoot is a rare occurrence. I mean, if there's 5,000 or 6,000 of the entire United States, that's rare when you think there's almost 1 million bear in New York, in the United States. Why aren't we seeing those every day? Right. But what happens is people switch to what makes things a little more, well, maybe it's paranormal. I mean, I believe in ghosts, and they naturally default because of their own biases to that mechanism. And then they start looking for things within that mechanism, not realizing they may not be related, right? Because I'm not saying the paranormal does not exist by no means, but like the whole orb stuff, likely it's not we're looking at two separate incidences, but because you're seeing something that may be paranormal, we're automatically defaulting that to belonging to the mystery we're originally there for. So it's because of that, you really kind of got to be careful with, let's just sit back and take what our ancestors said. But this was something that, 200 years ago, people were saying this is a flesh and blood thing. Let's go back to it. It's a wild man. It's it's an ape man, a wild man, a bear man, even in one particular case in Wisconsin, they called it a bear man.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my thoughts on that. I think
I would agree with you, because there is that physical impressions of prints of broken limbs, vocals, which again, that's where I would look at it saying flesh and blood. Right. That's there. But then at the same time, and Steve, we have more to talk about that body cam that I sent to you,
Sure.
what I caught on that. But where we thought maybe it was a small animal with the eyes on a branch. We've done such a big, extensive research on that there's nothing there. And I guess nobody really knows what I'm talking about, but I caught some sort of eye on my body on actually.
You definitely caught some sort of eye shot
on a body cam, but it was one, and it seemed like it was on a swivel. It wasn't going up and down; it was going left or right. And when I would talk to somebody on my left, go ahead.
And as I would say, the reason why it may look like one, because actually it's two, and it's so bright, it's just kind of blurred together because of the resolution of the video.
Right. So
you might actually be looking at two, actually.
Right. Well, what we were saying is from where the end was at, there was nothing there, no branches, nothing horizontal, nothing on that.
Right.
But I guess my next point is we've been still hiking that area, and just not last week, 2 weeks ago, on the way out, actually it was me, Chris, and Sherry. Chris was almost to the road. I was kind of in the middle. Sherry was about 10 feet behind me, and she was walking right next to the woods, and something huge it rattled her to where I turned around, and she said, something was there. It didn't move. It didn't take off like a deer and a raccoon, whatever. Okay. So I walk over there, and we're looking with our bright flashlights. That same friggin' whatever, that one eye is within there, and it's moving. And we even take a light and go right over it, and it's like nothing was there but just the brush. So again, I'm going to show you some more of that, but I think that's where I look at it saying, if a deer is flesh and blood, you would see see the deer, hear it get up, hear it move. Some of these things are just right there in front of you, loudest sound, and there's nothing there. And it's like it couldn't have taken off or anything. So I guess that's where where I was looking at, we were talking about the paranormal or supernatural. I say they're flesh and blood, but there's something more to it. That's my.
So I would go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm sure you'll have a good point on this too, Steve. But and again, not to be dismissive, because I'm
right.
an open-minded individual, and like Steve said, I've tagged along on ghost hunts and seen some crazy shit where I was like, okay, there's something to this, whatever.
Yeah.
But based on thousands of documented observations, we have a basic archetype of what Bigfoot or Sasquatch looks like. That archetype looks almost exactly like things that we know existed in the fossil record thousands of years ago. So therefore, isn't the obvious conclusion that Bigfoot, if it looks exactly like something that did live on our planet that we can reconstruct and say, then therefore to me, and I'm a biased aper, admittedly, but that to me, that's just the obvious thing, that Bigfoot looks like something that we know existed thousands of years ago. So the most obvious explanation is that it still exists.
Well,
albeit in rare numbers.
No, and the thing is, because Ken, remember we were standing by Lake Michigan talking about the same exact thing. We were talking about, I'm not trying to convince anybody of what how I perceive it, because it's good to be grounded on all of the fields possible. I think if we just looked at it as just, one way and didn't think outside the box, and I think that's my problem, is because that's where my mind goes. I'm always, if it's not this, could it be this? And then Steve, we talked about the whole Lee Hempel farm, the weird lights, the dog man out there, the Sasquatch. I mean, who knows what's going on out there? And again, Ken, I 100% agree with you though, because it's got to be flesh and blood as well. But there's some,
it's just the most pragmatic explanation without further evidence to support the more far out stuff.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying. And when we were looking at this body cam, and my body cam again caught this eye where we just heard this loud sound, and we can't see the eye because it's an infrared, and we're using our bright lights, and when our lights go over it, my body cam catches nothing but the woods, as if you were just looking at the woods, but the eye or whatever it is right there, and that was the thing that was moving. And I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not invalidating your experience, Jay.
Yeah.
Convinced that you did experience something unusual.
Right. So, exactly. Yeah, that's not that. No dispute there.
The one thing too, as far as the PhD question, I mean, as we've all been talking the last few minutes, none of us really know exactly what a Bigfoot is. So, I guess just trying to clarify my point before, while we do need the Dr. Meldrums of the world to look at casts or to look at evidence, and we need that, as Ken said, the scientific data, how can we have a PhD in something that we don't even have the answers to?
Well,
so, that's why I was saying that it's really going to be the average person that plays a crucial part.
Amen. Look at it this way. I mean, what do we know about him? Well, if you believe in Dr. Grover Krantz and Dr. Jeff Meldrum's analysis of the foot structure and the bone structure, if you agree with some of the witnesses of what they've seen in the descriptions, I know I've seen 2 of them, they are primate. So we know a lot about primates as a group, not as a specific species, because everything has their own little specifics. But as a group, we know a lot about, what motivates a primate, what they like, how they live necessarily, not necessarily where they live, but how they live. And then you run into more specifics. So I think there is a lot we know that if we just apply the known sciences to that helps us. I know it's helped me greatly in going to areas that yield something rather than nothing. So that's where we can start with. And that's why I always preach, if you want to understand a Bigfoot, understand primates as a group, because their vocalizations, primate-like, their foot structure, primate-like, their body type, primate-like. They break branches and leave footprints, and they don't wear clothes, and they've never been seen to use a complicated tool or use fire. So we're talking a primate, and Ken's got a big grin on his face, says he's in the ballpark with me there. I mean, these are all things that we have to consider. So if we sit there and say, well, we don't know nothing, then you're shorting yourself. We are the apex predators of this planet. And what makes us the apex is this. We need to start using this and start selling ourselves short a lot of times. That's why we need to integrate technologies. That's why we need to understand behavior. And it's all very important. That's
why I love you guys. I mean, with your books, your way of approaching it, here's Crazy Jay up in Wisconsin, approaching it one way, but I still need the Stephen Kens of the world. Just saying.
And
little plug for you guys.
There's a person by the name of Ann who made a good comment in chat about, I think, that said, I think there might be something that's a shapeshifter that could take on some form of and that very may be true. It could also be personal manifestations of something on somebody, that's something supernatural is happening in front of them, and it takes the manifestation of the Bigfoot because that's what's in their mind. Or
exactly, yeah.
There's a number of different things, but
it'll end up being the trees.
Yeah.
One thing
the
for
trees
certain,
just come to life. Yeah.
The trees are screwing us over.
Yep.
One thing for certain is, folks, if you're enjoying tonight's conversation, you can hear a lot more of this at the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure, because all 5 of us will be there, and Jay will be speaking, Steve will be speaking. Ken, I'm going to twist your arm and get you to speak, because you have a fantastic presentation, and I know everybody would love to hear it. So, but we talk like this quite frequently. We may not talk on the phone with each other often, but we have these discussions in various formats and various radio shows and podcasts where we share and exchange ideas. And that's what makes this great, is because we may have varying opinions or differing opinions, but we all agree to hear the other person's opinion. And then we share our opinion, why we either agree or disagree, and we keep it civil. And that's what's great about formats like this. We have the opportunity to share our thoughts and ideas on a subject. So thank you, Mick, for that question. We really got in deep with that and brought up some great points. And we want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. Do you guys want to stick around for another 20, 25 minutes and keep talking? Or
I do have a cast coming up at 9 p.m. tonight, so I probably have to run at 8:30. So.
All right, that sounds good. Well, then why don't we wrap it up at 8:30 tonight? And we'll be doing another one of these shows again, probably in June, July, and August before the camping adventure. So we invite everybody to keep your eyes open to social media. Hopefully we can get Ken back on. And Jay, you're my co-host on this. Tom's going to be with me. He's my Padawan. Steve, hopefully we can get you back as well.
Anytime, brother.
These are great conversations that are being shared, and opinions that are being shared. And that's what I really like, is because there's just so many great opinions that are offered, and you may or may not agree with them, but you have to respect the people they're coming from, because there's a lot of time put into this, and it's not just a fly-by-night researcher who jumps on a microphone and says, well, this is what I think because of this. Ken's got decades and decades and decades of experience. Steve has decades. Jay, you've got over a decade now under your belt of crypto research. Tom, Tom's got 3. He's learning, and he's learning very quickly.
And counting.
Back in the day, we used to walk barefoot to the Bigfoot sighting.
That's right. Back in the day,
see, are we gonna be those people? And I don't want to say like
we're becoming
eventually we will. Jay.
Right, like Grover. We just kind of fade out. As we do our thing, and there'll be a whole new set of researchers, the Jetsons, or whoever's going to be doing it. What
I know Ken knows, and Steve knows, you may not know, Jay, but the 4 horsemen, they didn't get along. They all had various opinions and beliefs, and man, they got into some nasty confrontations. I remember seeing videos of Grover and Renee duking it out. So
that's what I've always said, is whenever I'm doing a podcast, I always refer to you guys, and I may not mention you by name, but I talk about the way other people will research and come to their conclusions. Yet at the same time, it's not a matter of me not believing one way or another at this point. This is just my growth, and I call it it's my journey. It's like I'm humbled to be a part of the field. I'm humbled to be able to go out into the woods and experience whatever, and to be able to all come together like this and to listen, because believe me, Ken, whatever you said tonight will stick with me, just like Steve and even Tom. Tom, hey, I'm giving you kudos. And Eric, sorry, you're the host, so I had to,
I'm just the host.
Tom is on his way.
Yeah, but because what Eric's advice to me when I first started this, way back when we first met, Eric, when you were on Darkness Radio and we talked, you were saying it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 20 years or 6 months, and that gave me that encouragement to go out and to seek my truth. Maybe in the beginning I had my big rigs out and I'm with bright lights, like finding Bigfoot, going walking around in the woods, but it's turned into something different. And it's like just being here tonight and listening to all you guys. I love you. I love my brothers. So it's very good.
This mystery could all be solved tomorrow by a soccer mom coming home.
Exactly, right?
Hitting a 9-foot biped in the minivan.
Yep. They put it in. They named it Harry.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap things up, I'd like to kind of go around the room and let people know how they can get a hold of you guys, or follow you on social media, or check out your websites, or any events that you're coming up. And Jay, we'll start with you. How can people get a hold of you, or any events coming up that you want to plug, anything like that?
Yeah, right now you can get a hold of me at jbachochin.com. I'm also, you can find me on Facebook or message. I've got my 2 documentaries on Amazon Prime, Finding Jay, which is in 2019, and Beyond the Kettle, Finding Jay 2, which was released in 2022. And there's other surprises into the future. I won't mention what those are yet. As far as events, I've been doing more. I was just out in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I don't have anything lined up until, well, some of them are still tentative, but I kept, we have a new situation thing at work to where I can't take a lot of time off, new owner, but for sure the PA Sasquatch camping adventure. So I'll definitely be there. And again, thank you again for just having me co-host this and to be able to talk to these great gentlemen.
Absolutely. Ken, what about you, buddy? How can we find you, and what cool events do you have coming up, or anything that you want to share?
Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate your time tonight. Like I said, it was an honor to be here. I have kengerhard.com. People can check out my website. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X. I have a YouTube channel. There's a lot of ways to get in touch with me. As far as upcoming events, June 1st, I will be at the Kiamichi Mountains Bigfoot Conference, and that's in southeast Oklahoma, very close to an area called Area X that some of you may have heard of. They're in the Choctaw Nation. June 8th, I'll be at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference in Ocala, Florida. And June 28th, I'll be at Monster Fest 2 in Canton, Ohio. And that's the Small Town Monsters event, which I heard was a huge success last year for the first year. I had nothing to do with that, but I'll ride in on the coattails and make an appearance there as well. But I'm really looking forward to being up in Pennsylvania with you guys again. One of my favorite events across the country. And hopefully all of your listeners are planning on coming out and supporting the event.
I look forward to seeing you again and hanging out. The long ride from the airport, we always have great discussion to and from. And we're really excited you'll be coming back to the camping adventure this year, Ken.
Thanks.
Steve, what about you, my friend?
Well, people always can get a hold of me at squatchdetective.com or squatchdtv.com, which goes directly to the YouTube channel. June 22nd, 23rd, I'll be at the Rochester Parafest, rochesterparafest.com. On August 2nd and 3rd, I'll be at the Hocking Hills Bigfoot. Of course, September 20th and 21st, the great Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure. Guys, you got to come out to this. It's a great time. And you get to hang out with us at nighttime as well and see all the shenanigans. And, of course, September 28th, just a week later, I'll be at the Whitehall Bigfoot Festival. And then again, I have one other date in, I think, October, which I'll be doing, and that'll be in Gloversville, New York. Very small event, but worth mentioning. So, that's That's what I got going on.
Yeah, and I don't want to correct you, but the camping adventure dates are the 6th and 7th of September.
Ah, well, there you go. So somewhere it got changed on
So
me.
Don't show up on the 20th and 21st.
You'll be like, what the heck's going on?
I was going to say something that didn't sound right there, but
Yeah, 6th and 7th. Put it on your calendar.
It's the Mandela effect.
Yeah. And Tom, where can people find you?
Typically up in the Chestnut Ridge with you. Other than that, you can find me on Facebook. That's pretty much where I'm at. Or in Ken's great class. I'm in there, session 2.
There you
Thanks,
go.
Tom.
Awesome.
All right. So one quick last plug before we say goodnight. Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure, September 6th and 7th. Write it down, Steve.
I am. It's in my book. For some reason, was that announced different? Did we originally say it was that?
It originally was, but then we had to change the date because of the
Right.
So
Yeah.
the 6th and 7th of September at Benner's Meadow Run RV Campground in Farmington, Pennsylvania.
When is it?
We're Benner's Meadow Run RV
No,
Campground.
not where. When?
September 6th and 7th, 2024.
AD.
AD. It is in southwestern Pennsylvania in Fayette County. So if you go to the other Farmington, Pennsylvania, Jay, you're going to the wrong place.
Yeah. That was the first year, and I wasn't driving. Somebody else had that in their GPS. Brother-in-law, Kevin.
We have about 120 online tickets left. Still not sure at this point if we're going to sell tickets at the door yet. That's still up in the air. So make your plans now. Get your tickets now. PABigfootcampingadventure.com. This is all a charity fundraiser event. So anything that we raise at the event, past the expenses of covering the event, are being donated to local charities in southwestern Pennsylvania. So come out, support your local charities. Come out and see these great guys that are joining us here tonight in the discussion. And PABigfootcampingadventure.com. That's how to get a hold of us, get your tickets, find out more information about the event. Gentlemen, it was a real honor and pleasure to have all of you guys with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our listeners, watchers, video stalkers, whatever you want to call yourselves. We appreciate you for watching tonight. And this will be played on the channels that is broadcast on. It'll be replayed so you can check it out later on. And you guys have a great night. Enjoy your show tonight, Steve. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Tom. And
Take care,
good night,
guys.
everybody. We'll see you
guys later.
next month.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.